Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to continue on with my Brewdog catch-up that I've been doing for you, and this one should be quite interesting because this is the very first time I'm trying an Altbier from Brewdog, so quite interested to see their take on it. So this one is the Candy Kaiser, and if you've watched my channel before, perhaps the last 2 years or so, you'll know that I lived in Germany and I really love the Altbier style. I didn't get to drink too many of them while I was over there, but it was one that was always a great treat to have when I managed to drink the German Brauhaus Altbiers. I really love the kind of nice, slightly toasty, bready caramel flavours that you get from these beers, and they've always got a nice little bit of red fruit as well, so very much looking forward to seeing Brewdog's take on this style. As far as I can remember, this is the first one I've tried from them in this regard, so should be very, very interesting. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Brewdog reviews I've done before. There must be about 70 or so of those now, so do check those out if you're particularly interested in Brewdog beer. And there's all the usual social media things, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Please follow me on there. Your support would be much appreciated, and if you want to see more Brewdog reviews, do subscribe to the channel and check out the links below. There's a lot of other interesting things coming up for you over the next little while too, so do subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video. So anyway, to tell you about Brewdog, so as I've told you many times before, the Brewdog is the love child of two Aberdonians, James Watt and Martin Dickey, and the company was founded back in 2007, and their first brewery was in the Keswick Industrial Estate in the small town of Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland, right on the tip of the monster's nose, as I always like to say. But more recently, I think it was 2010, maybe 2011, could have been 2009, but they moved to their new very shiny facility in Ellon, which is a bit closer to the city of Aberdeen where I used to study, and they're also working at the moment to open up a second brewery in Columbus, Ohio, over in America. But these guys are known for being a very experimental brewery, if you like. They're kind of self-proclaimed trademark styles, if you like, are the Pale Ale, the IPA and the Double IPA. They produce some really nice beers in those categories, but I would also argue that Brewdog are very adept at producing stouts. Riptide for me is a favourite, and some of the Imperial stouts, the Paradox series that they produce, are also very, very nice. So they're a very good brewery overall, and they're largely inspired by the American craft brewing renaissance. In fact, a lot of them will cite Stone Brewing Company as our main reference, and if you taste some of the Stone beers, as I have recently, when you try some of the Brewdog IPAs, you can really see that kind of influence shining through. But the brewery have also been known in the past for having held the title of World's Strongest Beer on 3 separate occasions, but they've bowed out of that race now, and they're more just kind of experimenting with different recipes and stuff. They also have an extensive chain of sort of brewery bars, or brew pubs if you like. The first of these opened in 2009 in Aberdeen. I was there on one of the first nights. I think it was actually the first night that it opened. Very nice bar, but more recently they've spread all over the place, all throughout the UK, and there's several international sites now: Japan, Brazil, Sweden, Norway, I think Finland as well, Italy, all over the place. There's so many Brewdog bars. As I say, go and check out the brewery website and you can get a list of all of those there. Some cities even have 2 bars now. There's 2 of them in Aberdeen these days, which is quite cool. And my hometown, Stirling, now has one, and I was in there the other day. Very, very nice bars, good selection of beer, both Brewdog and other things, some nice food as well, so do go and check them out. And another thing to mention about this brewery is that they are the largest independently owned Scottish craft brewery these days, and they actually have a very interesting business model. This is called the Equity for Punk scheme, and this is where fans of the brewery like you and I can buy into the brewery and essentially kind of crowdfund them, if you like. So this is what they use to fund a lot of their, their brewery expansions, their new bars and things like this. So they were the world's first crowd-funded brewery, which is quite interesting, and they've released a book on that quite recently. So if you study business, it could be a very interesting case study for you to look at. Very interesting company, and they produce some very good beers. So that's the gist of Brewdog. But anyway, these guys have 2 different ranges of beers, and they do a lot of several regular beers and one-off brews and things like that. They've got their core range of beers, which is about 6 or 7 different beers. The amplified range, which is their kind of higher ABV things. Some really nice beers in that one. In fact, I think that's where Brewdog really shine, is at the higher ABV level. They produce some really good stuff there, but they've also got things like the Paradox series, the IPA is Dead, Hello My Name Is very good as well, and they also have the Abstract series as well. So just keep an eye on the brewery website and you'll get an idea of all the goings on at Brewdog. Very good brewery and a lot of interesting things going on there. But anyway, Anyway, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer. As I told you at the start of the video, very excited to try my first Altbier from Brewdog. So we'll just have a look at this one. So this one is 5.2%. It's got a malt base of Carafa, Extra Pale and Munich. And it also has a hop base, or hopped if you like, with Hersbrucker, Hallertauer and Magnum. So you should get a nice noble hop, but also some quite spicy floral aromatic character. Sometimes you can get chocolate flavours out of these, and sometimes you get more of a kind of roasted caramel. So I'm quite interested to see where this one comes out. But just to read the typical Brewdog blurb on this one for you, this one says, Candy Kaiser, banished no more. This Dusseldorfian legacy is reinstated and returned for the 21st century. Join the burgeoning ranks and swear allegiance to the Candy Kaiser. Follow to the skirmish, brace yourself for a toffee bombardment followed by fruit and fudge frontal assault. Then dig in for the bitter finish, Danke. You are defenceless, surrender to the Kaiser, a crafted Kraftwerk, a machine for drinking, an Uber in a world of average. Hail das Alt, so hail the old beer. And you can see on the back here, it is marked as a Brewdog seasonal. That circle there tells you Brewdog seasonal. And it has another blurb here which is about Brewdog itself. So as you can see, quite a trendy label on these. It took me a little while to get used to the new Brewdog labels, but I have to admit I do quite like them now after not liking them originally. But there you can see one of the standard Brewdog bottle caps in there. But 5.2%, Hallertau Hersbrucker hops in this one, and Magnum Carafa and Munich malts and some caramel in the malt base. So this one should be very, very interesting. So let's crack it open. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one. And we'll get it out and into the glass. I have to give a special shout out in this video as well to the guys at Fountain Hall Wines and Spirits. They are my Brewdog dealers. I phoned them up from Sweden and asked them to keep the Brewdog beers for me, and they do it for me all the time. So a big thank you to the guys at Fountain Hall Wines and Spirits. Check out the link to their Facebook page below. If you're particularly interested in Brewdog beer and you live in the Aberdeen area, these guys are probably the biggest dealers out with Brewdog themselves, so do go and check them out. So as you can see, this beer has poured a really nice kind of coppery amber colour. I'll just bring the light over and let you see that. It's actually a very clear copper amber colour, but I'm not sure how well that is coming up on the video for you there. I'm just trying to bring the light down a little bit and let you see this. It's a very nice reddish coppery amber colour. That's probably a very good way to describe it. There is a good degree of transparency to it, but I'm not sure how well you're seeing it on the video. I'll just try and move the light back and let you see this a little bit. And you can probably see, you can see a little bit of the red tinge there. There's a quarter finger of a frothy white head on this one. Looks very nice. Quite a bit of carbonation visible in this, just going up towards the bottom of the head, but some bigger bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. But overall, looks like a typical German Altbier. This could have been poured in a very nice German brauhaus. One of the nicest ones I found, of course, was in Wolfsburg. That was very, very nice. But yeah, very attractive looking beer. So let's have a look at the aroma for this one. Oh yeah, it actually smells very much like a German beer. It has that noble hop character to it, really pushing its way out. Brewdog, of course, are a very hop-heavy brewery, and you can really smell that typical German noble hop. The Hallertau gives you a little bit of an earthy character, almost a bit of a kind of slightly toasted caramel aroma coming from this one. But the German Hallertau hops really shining out of this one. The Hersbrucker hops are quite floral, and it's a kind of light floral character you get from these, but it really does smell like a typical German beer. There's a nice grassy character to it as well. You can get a little bit of the spiciness from the aromaticity from the Magnum as well, but overall it's more of the German noble hop coming out of this. You can get a bit of the sweet caramel. I think this is quite a biscuity beer as well. But yeah, a nice biscuity aroma coming out of this one. Actually quite grainy, I have to say. The German noble hop always gives you that kind of character as well. Some sweet chocolate, good bit of earthy hop, and some nice grassy floral, typical German noble hop character actually. Maybe even a little bit of red fruity ester, but that always comes out more in the taste than it does in the actual aroma. So let's give this guy a taste and see how we get on. So this one is the Candy Kaiser. It says on the side here, Norddeutsches Retro Altbier, and should be quite nice. 5.2% Hersbrucker and Magnum hops in this one. Slange, Prost. Now that is quite interesting. One of the things you always get with beers, when people try and copy German beer, you always get all the flavours, but you don't quite get the same mouthfeel. This one is a lot lighter than the German Altbiers you're actually going to find in Germany. The mouthfeel is quite a bit different. It has all the flavour. I mean, I reviewed a Rauch beer from Japan and it had all the flavour, just the mouthfeel was very slightly different. And this one is a lot lighter than typical German Altbier, and it's always interesting to notice little quirks in that. And of course in Scotland we have a very kind of mineral heavy water, if you like. And it comes out and it works quite well. To say the mouthfeel's different isn't really a bad thing about beer, but you'll just notice that immediately. If you're used to drinking German Altbiers, this guy is a lot lighter in the mouthfeel than your typical German mouth beer, but nonetheless, very, very nice. So as I always say, sugar the beer around your mouth and just let the whole palate adjust to this one before you dissect the flavour too much. But yeah, that is a very nice German style art beer. These beers of course originate from Dusseldorf, as they were saying on the label, and you always, with these beers, you always get a nice roasted bready character, some earthy noble hops coming out of this, and you get quite a dry character from the malt base actually. These beers are more malt heavy than hop heavy, if you like, so it's kind of an unusual, or kind of a bit of a step in the dark for Brewdog, but they've done quite well with this one. And take this from somebody who is quite well versed in German beer. They have done a good job on this one, I think. So yeah, the middle of your palate with this, it's just blanketed with a nice, quite rich German bread character. It's almost like a rye bread that you're getting from this one actually. It just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, there's a bit more cereally character. There is a little bit of dryness as you move into the aftertaste, but it's quite toasted as well. There's almost just a little bit of roasted character to the actual bread itself. There's a sweet caramel that goes down the middle of the palate, but there is actually a bit of roasted character to the bready part of the beer itself, which is very, very nice. But yeah, the malt base, you'll notice that about this, and this is a typical thing of German beer. The malt base always comes across as very, very smooth, and Brewdog have got that down to a T. The thing that's different about the mouthfeel in this beer really is the water. The water makes the body feel a little bit lighter, but all the flavour is present. I had the same when I tried a Doppelbock from Harbour Brewery down in Cornwall. They had all the flavour there, but it was just the mouthfeel. It felt just that little bit lighter than the typical German beer, and you know, that's nothing major. You'll want the flavour to be there. The mouthfeel can be whatever. The beer for me is all about the flavour. But yeah, if you move out to the hoppy parts of the palate, around the back corners of the palate, you're getting the nice earthy characters. German noble hops always give you this very smooth earthy character, and you can feel just a little bit of the dryness there building as you start to move into the aftertaste. As you come forward, it stops becoming so earthy. The earthiness just kind of fades out, and then it becomes a bit more smooth and floral as you go around the front of the palate. It's maybe becomes even a little bit grassy around the front too. The floral aromaticity also always has this kind of dryness to it. There's not much in the way of a spicy character. I was expecting it to be a bit more spicy, considering that there was the Magnum in there. The Magnum's a very spicy floral aromatic hop, but there's not too much of that there. The hoppy character in this one is actually quite smooth. The more dry character is actually coming from the earthiness, in my opinion, which of course will be the Hallertau hop. I'm saying Hallertau, of course. I should really say Hersbrucker Hallertau. But I mean, this is a very, very nice beer. It actually has, the flavours really blend together quite well. The very toasty, bready character blends quite well with the nice earthy hops that you get on the back sides of the palate. Very nicely done. And as your palate adjusts to it a bit more, if you just go behind the very front curve of your tongue, there's a nice oily bubble there, and that's where you always get a lot of these nice fruity characters. So if you just pay attention to behind there, you can feel these candied red fruits coming out there. Maybe a little bit of figs, maybe a bit of raisins, but for me, it's more of a candied fruit ester that you're getting off this one. I always say this type of flavour reminds me of the sort of the red hearts that you get in Haribo Star Mix. It really reminds me of that, and you can get just a little bit of juicy character coming out of the beer as you start to progress into the aftertaste. So it's quite a subtle flavour in comparison to the other things that are going on in this beer, but just pay attention to that front area behind the front curve of your tongue there. Really quite a nice little subtle touch. Yeah, you'll feel it. The beer just gets this nice juicy character, and then you progress into the aftertaste. But the lingering flavours in this one, it really is some of that roasted bready character, toasted bread, a bit of the earthy hop, some of the smoother grassiness, and the fruits. The kind of fruity ester just builds a little bit as you move into the aftertaste. But overall, this is a really, really quite nice beer. I have to give Brewdog a big thumbs up on that. For somebody who's difficult to impress with German style beers, I think Brewdog have done a pretty good job with this one. It's just the mouthfeel that's different, but all the typical flavours that you expect of an Altbier are in there, and they do quite well actually, so I have to give them a big thumbs up on this one. So in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this is actually quite light bodied. It's quite a bit lighter than the German varieties of this beer that you're going to come across. The German ones are really, they tend to be a bit richer in the caramel, and the bready character is a bit more prominent. This one is a bit more balanced actually, but there is a lot of malt character to it. This one more focuses on the toasted aspects of the bready flavour, which is a nice little quirk in the flavour, but there's a good malty sweetness from this, the breadiness and the caramel there of course, but it's quite dry at the same time. There's a good toasted and slightly roasted character to this beer as well, but there is just a little bit of the hoppiness. You get a bit of dryness from the grassy character as you move into the latter parts of the aftertaste, and there's a bit of dryness from the earthy character too, but overall the hops are quite smooth, and you have just a little bit of quite juicy fruity character in there too. So overall it's quite well balanced. It represents the Altbier style very well. It's just different in the mouthfeel for me. It's a little bit lighter in the body, I should say, than some of the typical German ones, but overall I think Brewdog have done it pretty damn well with this beer, and I would happily drink this again. I'd love to actually try it on tap, because maybe it's just the fact that this one's probably bottle conditioned that means you're going to get a bit of a lighter body to it. It's probably on tap, this beer has a good bit more body to it, so it would have been interesting to try it on tap, but we're not going to hold it against it. For me, mouthfeel is one of the not so important variables. The more important variables is the flavour, and for me this one ticks the boxes. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you do like German Altbiers, go and check out Brewdog's take on this one. Candy Kaiser, really quite nice. Since it's a seasonal beer, I think you might see it next year. If not, you've missed out on quite a good beer, but hopefully they bring it back, because I think it is pretty good. But as always, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. Been really cool to review another beer from Brewdog, especially one or a style of beer that I've never tried from these guys before. So yeah, go and check out Candy Kaiser, go and check out Brewdog. Until my next Brewdog review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. There's a lot of other interesting things coming up for you. If you want to see more Brewdog reviews, do subscribe to the channel, and in the meantime please go and check out the social media things as well. I thank you for watching my beer reviews, and I hope you go and enjoy some Brewdog beer. Slangy just now, and I will catch you very soon. Cheers.